Election Authority. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us right now for this special Campaign 2020 election question and answer session. We're live on the Channel 3 app. We're live on Facebook. We're all over the place right now. We're very happy to be joined by Secretary of the State Denise Merrill tonight. She is here right now answering the questions that you've been sending to us, and we have been getting a lot of them over the past few days. We're also going to be keeping an eye on your questions here on Facebook Live as well. So if you have a question, post it here right now, and we will pass it along directly to Secretary Merrill. Secretary Merrill, thank you very much for taking a few minutes to talk with us tonight. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. It's great to be here.
Well, we appreciate it. We know it's a very busy time for you. Let me start, first of all, by asking you how things are going so far.
Actually, extraordinarily well, all considering that we're kind of had to make this all up, really, ever since June or so, when we started trying to put together something where people wouldn't have to choose between their health and their vote. So that's what we've done, given people more options, but certainly it's been a challenge.
I know that the primary date, of course, changed a few times, and here we are. We can't move the general election coming up on Tuesday. But everybody, I think, is to the point now where they're ready to cast their votes and see what happens. There is so much talk about when we'll see a final result locally and nationally. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we are a state that insists that your ballot be in by 8 o'clock on election day. We are not what they call a postmark state. You're hearing about that in some places in the country. So I would imagine we will have the results in fairly quickly comparatively. I'm not sure it'll all be done by midnight as it usually is supposed to be. And even then, sometimes in presidential years with a big turnout like I think we're going to have, it will be challenging. So I imagine our smaller towns, the races will be decided by then. And the national media will probably declare Connecticut's presidential race by about 8:30, if I know how things work. But, the legislature gave the local election officials an extra couple of days to finish the counting if need be. So, but we do not count until Election Day, and we do not allow ballots to come in after Election Day. So that helps.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was just going to ask you that. So the counting really cannot start, because I know some states somewhere are maybe counting already, but here you have to wait until Election Day, and they have what, until Wednesday to get it done?
Yes, something like that. It would go on through Thursday if they use the entire 96 hours, which was the extra time that was given by the legislature. But we do start the counting a little earlier this year. We did make that exception as well. So they start counting the absentee ballots at 6 in the morning. Okay. Usually it's later in the day.
How does that happen? By hand? Are folks sitting around going through them, or do machines look at those as well?
Oh, no, it's by hand, and they start opening the ballots at 6 a.m. and they're put through the regular tabulators, just like all the other, all the other ballots. Same tabulators, same methods.
It's interesting. I was talking with some neighbors who opted to not do a mail-in ballot because they want to go. They want to put it in the machine. They want to participate in the process. Do you hear that from a lot of people?
I do. I mean, I think that people are exercising the absentee ballot option because they feel nervous about COVID, whatever their circumstances are. And that's exactly what we intended. We intended that there'd be another option for those folks, who might be over 65 in some sort of, compromised medical condition. So I think it's probably just where it needs to be. Personally, I'm going in person, even though I am over the magic age of being a little more at risk. But I am confident that our polling places are safe and secure.
I would imagine that there has been a lot of planning that's taken place to get these places ready, the polling locations, from cleanliness, things like that. That's probably been a whole separate process.
That's correct. It's been an enormous job. Don't forget, we have over 750, I think it is, polling places, something like that in Connecticut. That's a lot of polling places to clean, to get set up so that people can be socially distant, that all the poll workers, there's enough poll workers to manage, I think, what's going to be, still a crowd. Even though a lot of people are voting absentee, many, many people will still be at the polls.
Yeah, I can't help but wonder if when folks go vote on Tuesday morning, if they go in person, if there will be lines, because we're seeing that all over the place. Obviously, there's a lot of interest this year, but it makes me wonder. That's something we don't always see here in Connecticut, but maybe this year.
Well, presidential years, we usually have a few lines here or there. I think we will have lines this year for a couple of reasons. I mean, we did not do what a lot of states did, which was have fewer polling places. Big mistake. Right from the beginning, I said, nope, we're not going to collapse any of our polling places because we can't. We had to plan that they'd either all agree, they're going to all be doing absentee ballots, or that they'd all show up at the polls, because we didn't know a month ago where we'd be with COVID. Would it still even be a problem? As it turns out, we're having a little bit of a spike. So, that will all influence people's behavior right till the last minute.
You mentioned the spike. Obviously, the governor talked about that this afternoon, just over 6% right now. He's not real happy about that. Have you spoken with his office? Is there a concern about people getting too close together, or how it'll go on Tuesday?
Oh, we've talked constantly about all this, and we will do everything we can to make sure people's health is not endangered. And we've done a lot. We had a federal grant that was very helpful because we were able to send millions of dollars down to the towns so they could hire extra help at the polling places, for example. You're going to see a lot more people there because they have to manage the lines so people stay 6 feet apart, for example. There will only be a few people allowed in at a time in a polling place. Everyone will have to wear a mask, or at least will certainly be asked to wear a mask very strongly. And so you have to make all those accommodations for people. So that's an extra burden. And we did need all that extra funding to make sure we had enough help, that the clerks had enough help to manage the absentee ballots. We have this enormous volume of absentee ballots. People have really taken to voting absentee ballot. I think they very much appreciated that option. So we'll see.
I know in years past there's been discussion and conversation about early voting, which is something we don't do. Are you hearing this topic come up again this year as we look toward the future? Maybe it's something Connecticut needs to consider?
Absolutely. I mean, we are one of only 8 states left that don't have some kind of early voting. It really does take the pressure off Election Day. And, we did actually pass. I've been trying to get this passed for almost 10 years now. And we did pass a constitutional amendment. See, our problem in Connecticut is that this is all in our state constitution, which means you have a huge vote you need from the General Assembly. Then it has to go on the ballot. So everyone in the state is going to get a chance to vote on whether they want early voting or not, because we would have to take that restriction out of the Constitution, our state constitution.
Yeah, so that's quite a process for sure.
Yes. Yeah. But I think it's long overdue, honestly. I mean, and that's why people say every day, why don't we have that? They see it on TV. Everyone in the other states Texas has something like a month of early voting. Now, I think that's a bit much, but, a couple of days where we could, have people have again, it's all about options and making it easier for folks to exercise their right to vote.
Well, a lot of people have questions for you, and we want to share some of them with you right now. We have one here from Gloria. She is asking, what happens if you mailed in your vote, but you want to change it now?
You still can change your vote, even if it has been voted. And this is where I should tell people, if you want to check to make sure that your ballot has arrived, if you mailed it or even put it in a ballot box, you can go on our website now and you can see exactly when your ballot is logged in. So you might want to check that first because maybe it hasn't even arrived yet. But if it has, you can still change your mind. You can go down. You have to go down in person, and it has to be before Friday night, because we have allowed the towns to open those outer envelopes on Friday night a bit earlier. And that way, of course, once you separate those ballots from the envelope, you would not be able to retrace the votes. So if you wanted to do something like that, you'd have to do it before Friday night.
So go to your town hall before the deadline tomorrow night. And some of them I know are staying open later as we head into the weekend.
Yes, that's correct. Yep.
Okay. Well, that is good to know. Thank you. Valencia has a question right here. She's saying, I'm planning to vote in person. However, I have also obtained an absentee ballot. If there are long lines on Election Day, can I get out of line, complete that absentee ballot, and drop it off at my town on Election Day at Town Hall? She said that's her backup plan because I have to work, but I want to make sure my vote counts.
I have heard that from many, many people, including some friends of mine. And yes, absolutely, you can do that this year, because anyone can vote absentee ballot. If you have that absentee ballot, you can just take it over, yes, to wherever that ballot box is. That would be my advice, and drop it in the ballot box, which is usually right in front of town hall. And then the town clerks will be clearing those out all day long.
We just got one from a woman named Cindy online who's asking, does she need to bring, if she is going to go vote in person and has an absentee ballot, does she need to also bring the absentee ballot with her, or can she just leave that at home and go vote in person?
Absolutely not. Do not bring the absentee ballot to the polling place. Poll workers are not allowed to handle ballots like that. And what you should do is just discard it and just don't use it. And it will never be recorded.
That is good to know. Elisa wants to know, and I actually had this question myself, especially in light of the, over 6% positivity rate today. Is it too late? I think I know the answer, but is it too late to request an absentee ballot?
It is not. You can go, but in person. You have to go to town hall now and get it from your town clerk. It's too late to get something mailed to you because it's already within the length of time. You wouldn't have time to get it back. So you can go down. Actually, if you go to town hall, I would advise you, some town halls make you get an appointment now. They're not all open all hours. So check with your town clerk. But yes, you can go in person. You get the application right there. You fill it out. You give it to them. They give you the ballot. You vote it right there, and you're done.
Are you able to pick one up for your spouse, or is it one ballot per person?
One ballot per person.
Yeah, I thought so. I just wanted to check, though. We also had a question from Elisa again. She said a friend was suddenly hospitalized and wants to vote absentee now, but family isn't being allowed to, again, pick up the ballot for that person, as we were just talking about. Is there anything they can do?
Actually, it's a different rule. If someone is in the hospital, we have special provisions for emergency ballots for people who are hospitalized. In this case, I saw that question, and I wasn't clear if the question was whether the family was not being allowed into the hospital or into the town clerk's office.
Okay.
But yes, a family member or a caregiver can pick up an emergency ballot for anyone who is in the hospital. And then they can take it over to the hospital. And even in hospitals that aren't allowing people in because of COVID, and I think there are some of those now, a caregiver from that hospital can pick it up from the family at the door, deliver it to the person, have them cast their vote, and then bring it back to the family, and they can deliver it. This is only true for caregivers or immediate family members.
Very interesting. Thank you. Now, Lee from Middletown said, if post-election there is any evidence of voter fraud or suppression, even if it's less than 1% of the state's population, what will be done to remedy the situation?
We have an election enforcement commission. Any issue such as a voter suppression act or anything is actually reported on the spot. Any citizen can bring a complaint. We have a hotline on election day. Anyone can bring a complaint to that hotline. We then look at it with the Election Enforcement Commission, and that's a nonpartisan commission that's appointed to enforce these laws. And they will be pursued. These laws will be enforced very strictly. In particular, this year, you've heard about some rumblings about maybe people would be disrupting things at the polls, basically.
Yeah.
And there are very strict statutes against that kind of behavior. Frankly, we've never seen it in Connecticut, and I hope we don't see it this year. But again, that would be an issue for the Election Enforcement Commission, and they are on the job all day long on Election Day.
And you mentioned it is very easy to report right away as well if there is a problem at a poll or if you see something, right?
That's correct. You can either go on our website, you can call our office. There is a hotline. I can give it to you here, or you can look it up.
We'll pass it along.
Okay, great.
Well, Charles has a question. He said, if you go to an embassy or a consulate and they print out a generic ballot for you, will the city and town clerk accept them if they are not in a double envelope format, and even if they arrive after Election Day?
Yeah, not if they arrive after Election Day.
Okay.
So you've got a problem by now because it'd be difficult to get it there in time, not impossible. He's talking about the overseas ballots, and this is a generic ballot, blank ballot, because they can't make it for everyone. And you fill it out, and if you just put it in the mail, you're taking a chance. It's getting a little late, but you could mail it in or drop it off in person. You do not need the special envelopes in that case. they're treated differently because they're overseas ballots.
Okay, that's interesting as well. Now, Deborah is asking, I think this obviously is a big issue right now because of the times. Why are poll workers required to allow people to vote without a mask? We can't go anywhere else in public with that way inside. Why at the polls?
I want to be clear. No one will be allowed to endanger anyone in the polling place. The basic problem is that even if someone is absolutely refusing to wear a mask, and I'll be clear, we will offer them a mask. We will offer them other options to vote. But we cannot deny or disenfranchise any voter. It is their constitutional right to vote. So if they put us in that very difficult position, the moderator of the polling place is empowered to, for example, bring the ballot out and give them what they call curbside service. They might be able to create a special spot away from everyone else where they can vote, and then they would take that ballot from them and put it through the machine for them. So there are other options that we've told the towns that they can offer in that extreme situation.
So while you might not necessarily support that decision, there's nothing you can do to stop it.
Well, no, I mean, I think everyone has a right to vote, and
right.
you know, whether
But
they,
I mean the mask wearing.
you have. Yeah, right. That's right. I mean, it's a collision of laws in a way. You have this constitutional right to vote, but you also have CDC requirements and the governor's orders that everyone wear a mask in public. So you've got to balance those two interests. And we've tried very much to thread that needle to make sure everyone has the right to vote, but also never endangers anyone else.
Yeah, that's a good point. I just got this on Twitter from a woman named Diane. She's asking folks to clarify, for you to clarify, about signing ballots. She is saying, we're supposed to be signing the inner envelope. Signing the ballot, she said, would not make it confidential. Voters should not sign the actual ballot. I think she's confused about this.
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, the whole point of putting it in that inner envelope is to make sure your ballot and your vote is anonymous. No one will ever know who you voted for. That's why you don't sign the ballot itself.
I know we've talked about this a lot, and it's been a year for sure when it comes to presidential elections. And you had said you've been doing this a while. Have you ever seen a year like this?
Oh, no. No, the confluence of a presidential election, which is always kind of exciting because, you know, many more people usually vote in a presidential election. So we have to ramp up our whole system just on that score. And then you have COVID on top of that. We've never seen anything like this. And of course, in Connecticut, we really weren't set up for it. We have very restrictive laws about absentee ballots, and they're in our state constitution. So you can't even change them like some states like Vermont have made wholesale changes just this year. We couldn't do that. So we had to kind of make it all work. And I think we've done a pretty good job so far. We'll see on election day how it all works out. But it's been really challenging. I've never seen anything like this. No.
I know you mentioned a few minutes ago we were talking about early voting and how other states do it and how we're really in the minority when it comes to not doing it. But someone did just ask on Facebook if you anticipate a day, maybe by the next presidential election, that we could be doing it.
Absolutely. In fact, we did, as I said, pass a constitutional amendment last session for early voting, not for no fault, what we call no fault absentee balloting. Like many states have, you don't need an excuse to get an absentee ballot. Anybody can get one. You just sign up for it and you get it, just like we have this year for the first time. I kind of think the genie's out of the bottle. I think people in Connecticut are going to demand that they have the same access to voting as the other states. So, and maybe you'll even see federal action on this. This was included, I believe, in House Resolution 1 in the Congress, which said, you know, there shall be early voting in every state. So you might see some uniformity that starts to emerge from all this from the federal level.
Well, I think a good place to end it may be you encouraging everybody to get out and vote, right? You want to see as many people vote as possible.
Oh, yes. I mean, that's the exciting part of this year. Yeah. We are at an all-time high for voter registration, over 2.3 million voters in Connecticut, and an all-time high for like all these absentee ballots coming back. I see a lot of excitement out there. And, you know, let's face it, we've all been home. We've got opinions. Yeah. And I get the sense everybody's going to come out and vote. But boy, don't pass this one up. I mean, you've got to be part of this one. So I'm hoping we get a big turnout. You know, even if it's raining or something, don't let that stop you. This is your voice, your only voice in a democracy. So get out there and vote.
Okay. Secretary of the State, Denise Merrill, thank you so much for joining us online and on our app and everywhere tonight. We certainly appreciate your time.
Nice to be here. Thanks so much.
Good luck with the rest of the week and 5 days to go. Hopefully you got a vacation coming soon. We'll have to talk to the governor about that.
Oh, let's hope.
Thank you very much. And thank you to everybody for joining us online right now. The news continues tonight at 11 o'clock, and I'll see you then.